I didn't know that I was sentimental about cars. And I've had this one for 8 years. The Cayman GTS deserves a long-term update because I thought I was going to get rid of it and move on to something else. You know, I made some noises about selling it, and then I just haven't been able to bring myself to do that. Every time I get in, I think there's always something else that I want. Todd and I drive so many cars. We come across some great handling cars. I think, all right, what if I were to upgrade? What would be next? And I still don't have a good answer. Well, I do, but it involves a lot of money, and I'm not quite there yet. I'm thankful to own this one. It's one of the best cars I've ever owned, and I'm having trouble letting it go.
Great cars, great roads, and all the reasons we love to drive.
Road trips, comparisons, test drives, and podcasts. This is Everyday Driver.
After a long period of ownership, I think a lot of car owners start to get bored. They still like it, but they think, all right, to continue to love my car, I need to do some mods. I need to do something to it to get more out of it, to make it more modern or handle better or give it more power, better brakes. And many times that owner will create something that they don't love more. They've just spent a lot of money on, and now it's more hardcore, and maybe they like it less. Because I've been thinking about mods. Been thinking about what if I turn this into a more of a hardcore track car. Because of Hooked on Driving, I want something more dedicated, more focused. What if I got something that was very hardcore for track use? Well, I could just mod this. And then I think to myself, well, I'm kind of destroying the purpose of the GTS, a car that is brilliant for road trips. It really is a fun, excellent sports car, and it's great for track use too. So whenever Todd and I talk about mods on the podcast and what you should do, it never involves power. It's always driver mod first. But then we talk about tires are the next thing, and then brakes. Because you can carry a whole lot of speed with your current car. This car has mods. This is now rolling on Apex Motorsports Gold VS5 RS wheels. Apex uses their own Motorsports blanks for forging. That means they can control the entire process, and that also means they can control the depth of the spoke. They also do a lot of functional side milling to each spoke, which is time-consuming and expensive, but really well worth it because each spoke is now like an I-beam. So it's lighter and stronger, and of course it looks good. I've never seen a car that these wheels don't look good on. They've transformed the dynamics of the car and definitely lightened this car up in the corners. But the other big news is Vredestein tires. They have equipped this car with the Ultrac Pro ultra high performance tire. I came back to one of our favorite roads that we usually shoot on because I've had this car on it so many times with different tires. This is the same set of tires that is on the Emira and our C8 Corvette. And it seems like, just like with every set of tires, after about 250, 300 miles, the tires change. They come to life. And that has happened to this car too. I want to make sure that I'm not feeling like the wheels and tires are a placebo effect. That just because they're different, the lighter weight wheels, that I'm not claiming something that isn't there. The car's balance feels lighter. The steering does not feel lighter. I'm hoping that resonates with you because the steering feel through the rack is pretty much the same, but the car's dynamics are lighter through every corner. It grips just as hard as any performance tire I've driven on this car, on this road, but the whole car just wants to dive in a little bit more nimbly. It's right there. I feel it. It's that weight shift. The steering feels the same, but the car is just a little bit more nimble, which gives it an even better Cayman dynamic. And I love that I've kept this long enough because it's really made me used to and prefer mid-engine. I love mid-engine cars, and any Cayman I get in, I feel like I'm home. But any mid-engine car that I get in, from Emira to MR2, C8 Corvette, as heavy as it is, I recognize the dynamics right away. It seems like this car is carrying a lot more speed through these corners. It feels more fluid. Everything about it just feels easier through corners. Not a lot, but 8%? 9%? See, the only time I think about selling it is when I'm out of the car. When I'm driving it, especially on one of my favorite roads, I never think about selling it. As a matter of fact, I'm so glad that I have it. It's such a superb car. But the 981, in comparison to all the other Cayman generations, is the fat pig. I know. We've even talked about the 718 handling better, and it does. I mean, 987 Cayman is peak hydraulic steering feel. This went to the electric power steering for this generation. But I've come to find out that this particular steering rack is the exact same part number as the GT3 from this generation, which you would think means it's an easy switch to switch the GT3 handling map to this. Because I am interested, and I've heard people doing this, they are remapping the steering rack on this to dial out some of that dead feel. When I'm going fast like this, it does come to life. I mean, after all, it's a Cayman GTS. But Porsche engineers spent thousands of hours tuning the GT3 steering map because of their rear end configuration, because of the rear wheel steer, because of the kinematics of the car and the suspension and the setup. So they made the same steering rack do different things, and you'd think it's easy to switch this. I've looked into this. There's companies selling the PIWIS 2 with the laptop and a used Panasonic laptop to be able to flash it at that point. Apparently it's a simple drop-down menu to change to the GT3 steering remap on the 981, which I am very interested in doing. But I've heard other people say, well, it lightens things up, it changes the car completely, and I'm wondering if that would make me love it more? Would that mean it's going to stick around as the really long-term car? At this point, the only mods I'm thinking of doing, if I can do it, are the handling remap, the steering rack remap, if it's easy. The problem is, I found it to be just around $1,000. So if I pull it off successfully, and it changes nothing else, then we're golden. But if I don't, I've spent $1,000 that I could have saved for the next car. Because I didn't want to change the power. It's still only 340 horsepower, naturally aspirated, but it's still really quick. We talk about power output quite a lot, and it just seems like cars are getting faster and faster, lots more power. There's stuff I could do to this, but again, why don't I just think about getting a higher performance car? Because again, every time I think about selling this car, I just can't bring myself to do it. Well, when I'm driving, when I'm in it, like this. It's when I'm out of the car and I'm looking on Autotempest and I'm thinking, how much could I get for the GTS? A quick search on Autotempest.com says that this car is worth somewhere between $66,000 and $72,000. Depending on the condition, of course, manuals are definitely higher. There is no doubt that the 3.4 liter engine on this sounds the best. The back pressure, the burble, the popcorn, whatever. I have not heard a car that sounds better. I mean, a Cayman that sounds better. I thought I wanted a Cayman GTS 4.0, and then we drove one as part of the C8 and a mirror comparison, and I came away wanting the C8 more just because of its versatility. Yes, it has the power that I want this car to have, but I didn't like the dynamics as much. Now, we've driven the 718 GT4, and that is a car that I want, but it's $140,000, $150,000. See, yeah, it's a lot more money. This car isn't slow. Regarding maintenance, yes, it costs money. This car has 35,273 miles on it right now. I have had the 40,000 mile service done, including the PDK filter and fluid change. I had new spark plugs done, new battery. This thing got a good overhaul, it's $2,500 or so, but I love keeping it in top shape. I needed this drive. We've driven a lot of cars lately, and I needed this back in my own car. Whoa, sorry, bird. Jeez, it's holding a lot more speed. It surprised the bird. Like I said, I wish for a better handling feel. I wish for more information right there. But sadly, it doesn't have it. Does that mean I don't like it? No, I like this car a lot. And 35,000 miles in, it's still very tight. The cabin is tight. Everything is excellent. Now, I take care of my cars, but they're also meant to be driven. And I'm out here driving for no other reason than just to get used to my car again. Porsches get better the harder you go and the faster you drive them. They just do. I needed this. Slight mods. Very slight. Because the GTS platform is already great. So cleansing. Little daily triple action there just to, get it out of my system. The other thing about this GTS, the 981, is the styling. It is the prettiest, in my opinion, of all the Caymans. You look at this from all the angles. I think this is the best looking. The surfaces are beautiful, curvaceous surfaces. I feel like that went away with the 718 design. The surfaces are thinner. They're almost Volkswagen-like. It's still a cool-looking Cayman, but they're not as pretty as this car. Driving is what we do here. Whether it's everyday driver or hooked on driving, to get out for no other reason than to remind you that sports cars are fun. And no, I don't get tired of it. Look at this. Favorite road, late summer day. I am inspired and I am happy that I own this car. There are shortcomings. It's not as quick, it's not as fast, and it doesn't handle as well as many cars. But I just love it. It's still a GTS. I feel like I'm carrying a lot more speed. Same road, same conditions. It just moves more naturally. The steering isn't natural, but the car feels really at home. Oh yeah, I do want a manual transmission, but at no point in my ownership of 8 years, I can't believe it, have I regretted getting the PDK. It's still so engaging and it suits the dynamics very well. It's the best dual clutch transmission on the market. We all know that. I do want to go back to a manual for that engagement, but this is still excellent. And no, if you have a PDK or a dual clutch, it doesn't mean, even an automatic nowadays, it doesn't mean you're not a proper enthusiast. But never look in a Porsche and spot the PDK and think, it's not going to be as good. Porsche isn't going to make a car suck by equipping it with PDK, right? The GT3 RS and the GT4 RS both only come with a PDK. And at this point, it feels kind of old school. You actually use a key to turn an ignition. It doesn't have a backup camera. It doesn't have a good nav system, or stereo's okay. The seats are basic. They're not the buckets that I want. The suspension is 10 years old now, and I've been thinking, like, what if I upgraded the suspension and maybe I look into the big brake kit? Well, why don't I just spend the money on the GT4? But it's not like this is letting me down. Minor mods, that's where we're at. Continual driver upgrade, but I love that every time I get back in this car, I just feel like I'm home. I'm gonna pass you now. See, I'm never lacking for power. It's never a problem. Just needed a good drive. I haven't neglected you. Well, maybe a little bit, but not today. Okay, I feel cleansed. I feel good. Love my car. See, in an ideal world, if I could hang on to this and just simply add a GT4 of the same era, but then Todd has definitely called me out that I can't own more than one Cayman, but they're different. What if I owned a GT4 RS? 2 PDK equipped cars, but see, then I'd need a manual, so I'd have to have a manual GT3 Touring. But if I got a GT3 manual, then I could use that on track, and it would be a great road car. It could be a great replacement from this, but then I'm spending more money